Hello, AP Psychology students, and welcome to Chapter 6 on Sensation and Perception. It's a fun one. It's a brief chapter, but it's fun. So you're probably looking at this picture maybe a little confused here. What is it? Is it a blob? Is it an alien? Is it just ink splattered? One of those Jackson Pollock whatever paintings? Or is it a cow looking right at you? Don't see the cow? You can pause it and try to figure it out. I'm not going to give it away. All right, so sensation and perception. Sensation is the detection of physical energy emitted and reflected or reflected by a physical object. It's seeing the light, hearing my voice, feeling your seat, tasting the coffee that you had to stay awake because it's late and you're trying to make videos for class the next day. It might be the smell of clean laundry over here in this cluttered office we have. By the way, my rest of my house not cluttered like this, just this room. Perception is the process by which the brain organizes and interprets the sensory information. What we do with it, how we handle it, what memories it triggers, if it makes us hungry or excited. You were taught as a little kid you have five senses. No, you have a lot more than that. I mean, you have sense of sight, smell, hearing, touch, and taste. Yes, but you have a sense of thirst. You have a gag reflex. You have common sense. Well, not everyone. The ones who don't have common sense, we have a name for them. They're called politicians. Kinesthetic sense, you have a body sense. Some people might have a spidey sense. I don't know. Incense, that's you can smell stuff. You have a sense that your rectum's full. You have non-sense. You have a sixth sense. You have a sense of balance. That's a real one. Sense of temperature, sense of touch, pain. You have a full bladder, sense of hunger. And then some of us have 50 sense, which is, 50 cents. Yay. But we have sense of humor, sense of time, things like that. So the skin sense is the kind of sense of touch. We can break into heat, cold, pain, itching, tickling, and other sensations. We also have sense of balance, sense of movement, and all these fun things. But for this chapter, we'll just stick to the five, the classic ones. Yay. So our sense receptors convert energy of the stimulus into electrical impulses that go to the brain. So the light waves our eyes pick up. It goes through the cornea, the iris, and all that, and then it's reflected and goes back to the retina, and then it goes upside down and backwards to your brain, and your brain flips it all around and makes you see things. They're the field officers. They're out there gathering information for the brain. The nervous system encodes the information into neural impulses, which is sent to the brain. And then this is the doctrine of specific nerve energies. Johannes Muller theorized that sensing was anatomical, and he was correct. That there are things in the body that are designed to specifically sense. They stimulate different areas of the brain. And we learned that in chapter 4 with the lobes of the brain, the temporal lobe or the auditory cortex, the occipital lobe, which is your visual cortex, the parietal lobe, which has a sense of touch, and all that fun stuff. And so we see with the brain, not with the eyes. The eyes are the ones that bring in the information. The brain is what makes you understand what you're seeing and makes the image upright for you. So if you go to a baseball game and somebody's up there hitting and they throw a pitch and it's a ball, it's not a strike, they'll say, good eye, which we should be saying nice occipital lobe. Also, you have judgment, so the prefrontal cortex is involved. Never mind. Synesthesia is this weird thing where people can see they can hear colors. I'm sorry, I got confused. It's a stimulation of one sense or the other that can consistently evoke a sensation or another. So they can actually hear colors. They can touch sounds, and it's just really like the brain's miswired. It's really wild. If you want, I don't have time to get into that. That one's really kind of interesting. And so functional coding, which cells, how many, at what rate, what patterns of the nerve firing. I was thinking we can taste colors, but like grape. No grape tastes like that in nature. It's purple. Purple drink, man. So measuring the senses, this is called psychophysics. You have something called an absolute threshold. And this is kind of a weird thing, but it's the smallest amount of energy that a person can detect half the time. I'm not sure why half, not a third, not 3/4, but half the time, the smallest amount. And I'll give you the absolute threshold of human senses. Other species have a larger range in the electromagnetic spectrum. They can see more than we can. Some species can see ultraviolet. The predator can see in infrared. I remember that from the movie. And then, sounds. Dogs can hear sounds that we don't hear. Yeah. The difference threshold is basically the smallest amount of difference we can sense between two stimuli. Can you sense the two different shades of blue here? Because it's very subtle, but we can see that, and we can see millions and millions of colors. So let's get to the absolute threshold of our senses. Vision. You can see a candle flame 30 miles away on a clear, dark night. That's kind of remarkable. 30 miles away, without light pollution, without fog or smog, on a clear, dark night, you can see a candlelight 30 miles away. Wow. Absolute threshold of hearing. These are really old graphics. You can hear the tick of a watch under quiet conditions at 20 feet. Pretty much your PC principal right here with the shades on. Just looking cool inside. I'm not sure what's going on there. Taste threshold is 1 teaspoon of sugar in 2 gallons of water. That doesn't seem that impressive. Smell, 1 drop of perfume diffused into an entire volume of a 3-room apartment. Some of you guys with your diffusers need to take that into account. And then the last one for the sense of touch. I feel like they went to, China and had a kung fu master come up with this. You can feel the wing of a bee falling on your cheek from a height of 1 centimeter. What? Somebody got paid to study that. That's so fun. So measuring the senses, you also have signal detection theory, where some people are yay-sayers and some people are naysayers. So a funny story, well, maybe not funny, but I have hearing loss. I had ear problems growing up. I had tumors in this ear, anywhere, earplugs, I had tubes, all that stuff. So whenever I had to do the hearing test at school, I hated it because I knew I was going to fail. Vision test, spot on. I got great vision, 2010, 2015 vision. Hearing test, yeah. I would sit down and usually not hear any of that little tiny boom. And so literally, I think in like 3rd grade, one time I just sat down and raised my hand, and the lady goes, we haven't even started yet. I'm like, I was just warming up. I would guess. So a person's response can be divided into a sensory process and decision process. If there's a sound and you hear it and you raise your hand, that's a hit. If there's a sound that's there and you don't hear it, that's a miss. If you say yes and it's not there, that's called a false alarm. And if you don't raise your arm because you didn't hear a sound, that's a correct rejection. So I was in the false alarm, warming up my arm. It's a mathematical formula that can predict a person's true sensitivity because some people will say yes more, some people will say no. Very complicated. You might see this on a test at some point. Just kind of know what's going on with that. Senses are designed to respond to change and contrast in the environment. And so our senses can dull over time. Sensory adaptation is if the stimulus is unchanging or repetitious, it fades or goes away. Just like when you get into a hot shower or a hot tub or the hot pool at the hot springs in Glenwood, it's really hot at first, and then you feel good. These guys are doing the polar bear plunge. This is in Boulder. They're jumping into that, which I'm not sure that I'd ever get used to it. But if you ever go up to Harvey Gap, early summer or Rifle Gap, pretty cold water. And once you get in, you kind of get used to it. Our eyes are constantly moving, so it's difficult to detect in visions. Our eyes do not sit there and stare at one thing. They're moving all over the screen right now. You're checking out the stuff behind me, the posters on the wall. You're checking out the things on the screen. Look at that guy, polar bear, and that guy's got a top hat. And then sensory deprivation. This can cause harm and help people depending on its length. And so some people will go into a dense sensory deprivation chamber. They can't last very long because without that input to the brain, that massive amount of information going in, our brains kind of go wandering all over, which is kind of like a waking dream. Kind of interesting stuff. So too much or too little stimulation can cause fatigue and mental harm. We do have selective attention, which is the ability to focus on some parts of the environment and block out others. We call this the cocktail party phenomenon, where we can listen to someone who's here right next to me and I can block out the rest of the room. This is why people that have hearing aids have a hard time, is because it amplifies everything and they can't distinguish between what they want to hear and what they don't want to hear. Our brains can do that automatically. This also causes us to miss a lot around us. Remember the video where we watched the the people passing the basketball and the gorilla pounded on the chest. We were so focused on watching the white team throw the ball and count them. We didn't see a gorilla walk through the frame and beat on his chest because we were too focused. We miss a lot of things. And then inattentional blindness, which is tunnel vision or selective hearing, kind of that stuff we just talked about. Some people just see, they just focus, and they don't see what's going on around them. So like I said, remember the gorilla in the basketball video. So selective hearing for hearing aids for men, TV off, wife. Yes. That's all I got for today. Next time we'll be talking about vision. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day.